Housing and Community Development. Thanks, Rachel. I'm also a graduate planning student at the University of Arizona, and I am primarily working on the ConnectHome program while I'm here at HCD. And so for anybody who doesn't know, ConnectHome is a HUD program that seeks to engage and activate public and private partnerships in an attempt to narrow the digital divide for residents living in HUD-assisted housing. It's designed to focus on 3 different areas: connectivity, devices, and digital skills and digital literacy training. This working group today is going to be focusing on connectivity and devices. And what we hope to accomplish during this meeting today is just to kind of recap where we've been with ConnectHome, where we are right now, and the directions that we're going. And that'll include a quick recap of the convening that previously happened in March, an overview of where we're at with the action plan right now, and then some ideas and conversation around a device and connectivity working group and where we think we'll be able to go with that. So to start, if we could do introductions, that would be fantastic. And I'll just call people out based on my participants list in Zoom, and we'll start with HCD staff. Rachel?
Hi everyone, Rachel Hutchinson. I'm a planning technician with Housing and Community Development.
Allison? We'll come back to Allison. Mike Rohrbach?
Mike Rohrbach with CCLAC, a digital literacy group in which we encourage youth to instruct adults and seniors on technology.
Thanks. Steve Peters?
So I'm a coordinator of the Arizona Broadband Stakeholder Network and the COVID-19 Digital Access Task Force. We have over 100 people representing state government, local government, nonprofit organizations, economic development, education, and so forth. We've been meeting for over a year now. We put together a statewide broadband digital access strategy, and we meet every Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. Over 50, 60 people attend those meetings. We have briefings from the state broadband manager, from the state library, the chairman of the Arizona Corporation Commission, the executive director of the Sun Corridor Network, and others on what's happening, what's coming down the pike, who's doing what, and so forth. And so I won't take more time now, but I'd be glad to share that information. And you're all welcome to participate in the task force.
Yeah, that's great, Steve. Thanks. Amber Mathewson.
Hi, I'm Amber Mathewson, the director for Pima County Public Libraries. Happy to be here today.
William Davin.
Hey Ben, how you doing? Thanks for having us. This is Will Davin, Government Account Manager for T-Mobile. I support the city of Tucson and anything they need for wireless services. And I recognize a bunch of you on this call, so good to see you.
Great, thanks, Will. Andres? Ariel Fry.
Hi everyone, this is Ariel Fry, Ward 6 City Council aide.
Autumn Vandenberg.
Hi everyone, Autumn Vandenberg, the Community Relations Manager for Cox, Southern Arizona.
Thanks. Beth Lake.
Hi, I'm Beth Lake. I am the Community and Family Engagement Coordinator for Amphitheaters Public Schools.
Great. Cindy.
Hi, yes, I'm Cindy Hogan, and I'm with, I'm an AmeriCorps member placed with the United Way, except my term ends shortly, but I got involved with Steve in the Arizona Broadband Stakeholders Network. I'm active in that group, and I'm also a subscriber to the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. Thanks.
Great. Kurt?
Hello, I'm representing Ronnie Singh, and I'm with the Better Together Coalition in the Saurita area, and we have a subgroup that works on connectivity for school children.
Thanks. Hannah?
Hi, I am here representing Direct Advocacy and Resource Center. Other staff people have been in previous meetings, but I think I'll be in the next few. And then I'm also the vice chair of the city's Commission on Disability Issues.
Okay. Jill?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Kastic, and I am a faculty member in the College of Education at the University of Arizona, where my emphasis is digital literacies. And I'm also here representing Literacy Connects, a Tucson nonprofit organization that works on literacy issues and digital literacy.
Thanks. John Burrows?
Hi, I'm John Burrows. I'm with the City of Tucson IT department.
Thanks. Julie?
Hi, I'm the Director of Clubhouse Operations for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Tucson.
Thanks. Carrie?
Did you say Carrie?
I did.
Sorry, we're a co-working space. I'm Carrie Lopez Howell. I'm the Executive Director of Sunnyside Foundation.
Thanks. Linda?
Hi, I'm Linda Hollis, and I'm a member of the Elder Alliance and have been having some recent conversations with Mike. So it's good to be here.
Great. Thanks. Maddie?
Hi, Maddie Bynes, Director of Public Policy and Special Projects at Pima Council on Aging. Happy to be here.
Mike Edmonds?
Hey, Mike Edmonds, resident of Tucson House, secretary of the Tucson House Residents Council. I'm involved in Thrive in 05 and Ward 3. The reason you don't see me is because I'm still configuring and fighting with a new Linux box, which, John, if you don't help me, I'm going to take a bat to it soon.
Thanks for being here, Mike. Mireya?
Hi, this is Mireya Escamilla. I work with Pima College Adult Education, volunteers and student engagement.
Thank you. Patty?
Hello, my name is Patty Gonzalez. I'm with Community Investment Corporation, local nonprofit. I'm Director of Housing Programs.
And Rich? And we'll see if Allison's on. Allison's having some technical difficulties, and she is the principal planner at HCD, who is administering this overall program, Connect Home at the Housing Authority. Did I miss anybody else for introductions? Okay, great. So now I was going to move into a quick recap of the convening that happened in March. And I was going to ask Allison if she could go through that. So if she is up, then she will. If not, then I'll be doing that. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And briefly, I just wanted to say thanks everybody for being here. It's fantastic to see such a large and diverse group of people. That's exactly what this program is about. It's about bringing together people in the community so that we can leverage the resources of everyone so that we can build connections between organizations and between people so that we can narrow the digital divide by doing that, by bringing those existing resources that are already there together. So thanks everybody for being here, and I'm going to share my screen and And Allison with convening recap.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I think I recognize a number of you from the convening that we held in March, so it's good to see you all again if I haven't talked to you since then. But just as a quick recap, right, the housing and community development, as I'm sure Ben already said, and I apologize for my own technical difficulties this afternoon, but our department has been in its first year kind of in 2020 and 2021 of the ConnectHome program, which is a program through HUD. And kind of one of the key pieces of that is pulling together a convening. Again, I know I'm repeating probably a lot of what Ben said, but the idea of pulling together a lot of local and national stakeholders in the realm of digital inclusion to target those resources towards our, the city's public housing and Section 8 residents, or we call them HUD assisted residents. So we convened that there were, probably 60, 75 people who registered and joined us in March of this year. And, that was just the kickoff. So we had a lot of really great conversations and breakout rooms around what does digital inclusion mean to you? Like what's the definition? What does digital inclusion look like in Tucson? What are we doing collectively in Tucson around digital inclusion, and what resources, programs, and initiatives are needed to achieve those digital inclusion goals? And again, we provided a little bit of a background, and all of those resources are on the ConnectHome Tucson website that Rachel can probably share a link to. So folks, if you can't remember, like what did we talk about in those breakout rooms, there's a summary on the website, there's a presentation, and there's a recording from that group. And so really the main takeaways from that convening were the relationships that we built with a lot of you, and some better understanding of kind of where we are with what folks are doing in Tucson, and what opportunities there are for HUD assisted residents. So we've been kind of doing some work on the back end from HCD's end. We hired Ben for the summer as our intern to kind of dig into what came out of that meeting, and to start having conversations with stakeholders around what are additional opportunities. And then Ben has also been, right, this isn't just planning for the sake of planning. We've been trying to do work on the ground as we've been going. So, right, we've been working directly with Tucson House residents. That's our largest public housing building in the city of Tucson on Oracle Road. We've specifically been targeting that housing complex, both because it's, everything's under one roof, and we have a population that could really use some assistance, and it's also a target of one of our ongoing planning efforts. So in Tucson House, we've been working on some just very ad hoc digital literacy training. Ben and Cindy and Rachel have been leading tech support office hours with Mike Edmonds, who I think I also see on the call. And then we've been exploring options for connectivity at that building, as well as our other two larger apartment complexes, Craycroft Towers and MLK. The convening also sparked a better relationship with the Pima County Public Library, and we've been working with them on thinking about what could digital literacy at some of our housing complexes look like. So I think I'll leave it there, Ben, unless I missed anything.
No, I think that's great. Thanks, because what I'd like to try to do now is jump into the action plan. So based on information gathered during the convening and many conversations that have been going on with stakeholders in the community, we've been working to develop an action plan. And what we'd like to do is present some of that action plan today in this forum, And then at the end of that presentation, organize people into some breakout groups and get some feedback on the action plan about what's missing, what's good about it, what we can put in it, how it can be refined to be a clear direction and pathway forward for us to work on connectivity devices and digital skills training for all of our HUD-assisted residents. So we'll jump into action plan. We did do another survey. That survey data is going to close out soon, so we'll have more survey data in the action plan. So as a part of the action plan, we'll get survey data, and that survey data will have information about who has a connection to broadband currently and who has a device that can access broadband, as well as questions around how comfortable different residents are doing different things on the internet. And by gathering that data, we hope to be able to target our digital skills training around some of that survey data. So in the action plan, we've listed out some of our first year goals and strategies, and you can see the first year goals in this matrix box here, and we'll go through a quick timeline of that. We've tried to lay out some pretty aggressive goals for our residents and are hoping to hit those during the first program year of Connect Home. And one of those is to get connectivity to 35% of public housing residents. And I'll talk a little bit about the strategies for how we think we're going to be able to do that in the next few slides. And some of our other goals have been to just make sure that we contact a large number of our residents about specifically options open to them with regard to connectivity and devices, and what the plan is for getting that connectivity and devices to residents. One of those goals was also, like Allison mentioned, starting a tech support at Tucson House specifically, and distributing community wireless program routers, and that's been good. So I think one of the successes that the city can point to from an infrastructure standpoint is setting up the community wireless program. And when initially the pandemic started, the city set up a community wireless program to extend wireless, I think specifically to residents of the city and surrounding areas who did not have access for schooling. And so we've been able to kind of piggyback off of the city's community wireless program to get routers into the hands of some of our public housing residents so that they can get a connection now. And that's been a pretty successful goal. And we're still handing out routers right now to a lot of those residents. What that doesn't do is get devices to those residents. So some of our other goals around devices were to identify vendors and to enter into contract with those vendors to get devices out to some of our residents. And I'll talk a little bit more about the agreement that we've entered into with T-Mobile, and to distribute to devices to hopefully around 35% of Tucson House residents. We're also looking to identify local refurbishers of equipment, and identify surplus assets coming out of organizations that do not have a need for those assets, but we can potentially refurbish and repurpose and get into the hands of some of our residents. So for our timeline for the first year in connectivity, the convening was obviously held in March. Tech help started in April. We've had help getting people to help us out trying to get residents signed up through EBB. And recently we have partnered with Cox and some other organizations, and there will be an EBB sign-up event likely in September. And we're continuing to bring people together in the community to try to hold EBB sign-up events, not just for residents, but for anyone who's eligible for those benefits. In August, what we're hoping to do is to get devices. This month, we're hoping to get devices and get them out to some of our residents. We've recently partnered with T-Mobile and are going through the contracting mechanisms to acquire devices and provide some devices that have LTE connectivity specifically to Tucson House residents. And so the strategy for connectivity for Tucson House right now is to get devices that are 4G LTE enabled to a number of the residents in that building until that building gets rehabilitated or redeveloped sometime, hopefully within the next 2 to 5 years, at which time the strategy for that building would be to hardwire that building so that it was internet ready. The approach for Martin Luther King Jr. Apartments and the Craycroft Towers is in the works right now. And the approach for those buildings is to hardwire those buildings directly in partnership with the city's IT department and HCD working together to allocate funding to be able to wire and put in access points for each resident of that building. So if you can kind of imagine what it would be like in a hotel, if every hotel had a room that was an access point, the goal is for the residents of those buildings to have an access point in their residence. And so that is an ongoing effort, and we're working on that right now, hoping to be able to get a decent timeline. But the goal would be to begin the hardwiring of that within the first program year and have that completed hopefully within that same program year. So that's our current connectivity timeline goal. And now our device timeline goal, or while I'm between connectivity and devices. Does anybody have any questions currently?
Well, Ben, and maybe this will come up at when we get into some further discussion, but I have a number of questions about the community wireless program, about where they are, what their plans are, sustainability issues, and so forth. And so I don't know if we want to talk about that now, but I do have a lot of questions about that.
So I think that questions about the community wireless program would probably be more well answered by somebody in the IT department or maybe a deputy director of the department. I can't speak for IT or community wireless. I just know that we have been able to engage in that program to help provide connectivity for some of our residents.
Well, it certainly makes sense. And so I'm curious about where they are, what they need to do to be able to get all of your residents connected to that program. Is it just a router issue besides devices? And I need to have quite a questions about devices also, but you know, understanding where that program is and what they can and can't do for your residents at this point.
Yeah, and we can circle back to that for sure. I think that can be or will be a continuous conversation. I'd also like to have that conversation in the context of what the Sun Corridor is potentially doing, and maybe the ability to leverage some of that infrastructure that potentially is going to be built up to provide access to some of our neighbors as well.
Well, that certainly is a whole nother discussion. The Sun Corridor Network has great potential to support, and they're doing some demonstration projects in other communities. And so we work a lot with them, and I think that there's a great opportunity there. I see Derek didn't make the call today. I don't believe he's on the line, but there's some great potential there also.
Okay, yeah, let's circle back if we have time. We can definitely talk through that a little bit. But again, I think the most effective conversation around community wireless would definitely be with city staff from the IT department.
And there's somebody online, isn't there, from COT?
I am online, Steve, and unfortunately I have to drop in 4 minutes, which won't do any of us justice. Okay. That conversation today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think potentially as a working group member, if you would like to be a part of the working group around connectivity and devices, Steve, that could definitely be a topic that could be carried forward after this meeting. I'm going to jump into devices and our timeline here so I can try to get through this to make sure that we have enough time to do breakout rooms and get some feedback. So after the convening, the first thing that happened was that community wireless effort where staff here at HCD worked to get routers to some of our residents. And then we began an effort to identify different people in the community who we could potentially work with. Again, just bringing together different organizations so that we can utilize the capability that exists within the community to try to get some of this capability and connectivity and devices to our residents. So we've been meeting with Refurbisher. I don't see him on the call today, but I would definitely like going forward in a working group to try to get some connection there too. We have recently been able to acquire some surplus devices from within the city, and we would like to refurbish and repurpose those devices with an overall goal, an end goal of having a steady supply of those devices that are no longer being used by whatever organization is willing to donate them, going into a restoration pipeline with a refurbisher and then getting those back out specifically to our residents. Recently, as I said, we entered into an agreement with T-Mobile. We're still going through all the contracting functions for that. And that should get us around 250 devices that we will begin to start handing out at the Tucson house as soon as able. Again, timeline is kind of to be determined on when we can actually start to do that, but thanks to T-Mobile for working hard with us to get through that contracting effort. And again, as you see on the timeline, we have goals of how to get devices out, how to acquire devices, but what we don't have is those connections and that continued sustainable process that we can use to get devices from either surplus or wherever they're coming from, or new devices, get them through a refurbishment or get them ready for use and then into the hands of our residents.
So again, Ben, we can help you with that. We can talk some more about that also.
Great, awesome. And then our meeting next week is on digital skills training and digital literacy. So whoever is interested in that as well, please come to that meeting next Thursday. And then we have some future years goals, and these are pretty rough. And so we would be asking for feedback about what the community would like to incorporate in second and third year goals, as well as some of the things that we've just talked about and any suggestions people have for what to incorporate into the action plan. And so that's currently what we're working with on the action plan. There's other information here. A lot of his background and demographics, and just gives an explanation. And the point of this action plan is to have a document that we submit to HUD, but also is a policy document or an aspirational document that lays out some milestones for what we want to do and how we want to do it and how we want to leverage resources in the community to get us to that point. So that's where we're at with the action plan. What I would like to do, I think we're okay in a time sense, is go to breakout groups and have discussion in the breakout group about the action plan and solicit feedback for the action plan. I'd like feedback, if possible, on what people think is missing from it, what's good about it, and any other general feedback. And when you get into your breakout room, if you could please identify someone as a note taker and someone who can read back to the overall group once we get back into the larger group, that would be fantastic. And I believe Rachel will be able to break everybody out. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then look to Rachel for any other instructions or how we're going to break out.
Yeah, I can send everybody into breakout rooms starting now. See you guys on the other side.
right, everybody's coming back. Just wait for another minute till we get everybody back, and then we'll ask for the readout from each group. Was that 3 breakout groups, Rachel?
I had 4.
4, okay. And just let me know when everybody's back, please.
Looks like we might be waiting on one more group.
We may have lost some people too. You know,
Yeah, that's what
breakup
I'm
groups
thinking.
always freak people out.
Well, in the interest of time, let's go ahead and start and do the read back from group 1. What kind of feedback do we get from group 1 about the plan?
All right, so we mostly talked about various kind of access issues. So specifically, ways to ask for ADA accommodations, options for engaging with humans for support instead of just emailing, training for staff to support with subcontractor complaints. We also talked about skills training, the need for skills training to be very basic and introductory, and have an interactive human component. Mobility issues for transient consumers, families that move. Also some support and education for undocumented consumers or alternatives to onboarding to bypass that concern. I think that's everything I wrote, so hopefully I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, no, that's great. Appreciate it. And so everybody knows we're documenting all of that feedback from the groups in those slides, and we will consolidate all that information after the meeting is over. Can we go to group 2? I guess that maybe who we're missing.
Great.
All right, we, group 3.
Oh, Rachel, was I group 2, I think? Okay, great, thanks you guys. Okay, Cindy here. One of the comments in our breakout was that the word community seemed to be missing. And we talked about that we feel that the greater community in Tucson needs more awareness of the fact that there is this digital divide and more awareness about what it's about. And so because if you don't know about it, you can't participate in the solutions. And then if we can gain more awareness, we can engage community members to teach digital literacy and tech support, bring them into the field and with what they know and what they can contribute. And then there was an acknowledgement that everything in life has gone digital. And while we're working really hard on the idea of being sure that people are all connected and can adopt the technologies, at some level, we should probably acknowledge that there are those who are not and cannot or will not connect, and that we may need to continue having gap measures for them and not just assume everybody can do digital banking and digital permitting and all that. There was another comment that the plan seemed to be vendor/device driven versus digital literacy driven, and that skills training isn't the same thing as kind of the one-on-one engagement that's needed to bring people who are not part of the digital world into that digital world. It's a big leap in a lot of ways. And let me think. Yeah, and I'll just add, I didn't get a chance to, that breakout happened really fast, but I read a study that came out of Austin, Texas that talked about that the statistics show that the #1 reason why people were not adopting the internet was privacy and security concerns. And we don't have ways for people to understand how to avoid some of the scams and the concerns about that kind of thing. So I felt that that was missing as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Cindy. Really appreciate that. Not as an alibi, but as an explanation. This working group here is going to be centered around devices and connectivity. And as a plug for next week's meeting on Thursday, that's going to be centered specifically on digital skills and digital literacy and training for the user interface. So thanks for that. And group 3?
Well, I guess that's me. And I have to say, an apology to my group that I probably dominated a lot of the discussion, but we did have a lot of discussion about and questions about the City of Tucson network, which I raised earlier today about what they are and aren't doing. Someone asked about, is there a limitation on the number of routers that can be distributed that are available through the city program? And is that a barrier at this point in time? We weren't clear about that situation. We know that there's other government funding that's going to be coming down the pike pretty soon. Of course, EBB is out there, and of course Cindy's been really working diligently to get people into the EBB program along with others. But there is also the Federal Lifeline program that's been around for a long time, that's providing devices and connectivity, and hasn't been a lot of discussion about that. And we don't know, Cindy, maybe you've got a later update about EBB and whether it's going to be continued or not. Probably we don't know that at this point in time. And so that's a limited time program at the moment. So we had a lot of discussion about that. We had similar discussion that others did about the need to provide, excuse me, the training and support and education to folks in being able to use the technology and devices and so forth. So did I miss anything in my group that I should talk about?
Steve, I think you covered it. Thank you so much for being our spokesperson.
Sure.
Thanks, Steve. Do we have a group 4 spokesperson?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit from the perspective of group 4. And I just wanted to thank Cindy Hogan's group and everything that they shared. And just say that even though we're talking about connectivity and devices, there's a human element to this that always has to be a part of driving what we do. And so I just really appreciated the human-centered approach that group 2 took, even in this conversation that's meant to be about digital devices and connectivity. Group 4 praised the plan and its high quality thinking and the ability to kind of synthesize a lot of information at once. What we felt was missing from the plan is how to support families that are homebound, that can't get out to other organizations and places to make their connectivity happen. In terms of general feedback, we had a couple of points. One is to really emphasize the creation of new partnerships, because there's a lot of organizations represented here. And without ongoing conversations to help unify our work, it's difficult to leverage each other's resources and intellectual capital to really make this as sustainable as it possibly can. The need to focus on advocacy at the national level, the local level, to encourage forward momentum, because we know that the digital world is not going away. It's becoming more a part, interdependent of our lives and our work and our families and our economic security. So we need more advocacy to make this more generative. And then we noted issues with CWP routers that create barriers to connection for some people, and we really need to acknowledge those elements. And group, is there anything I missed?
You got it, Jill. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And that's a fantastic segue. Jill, your comments about people in the community and us need to identify those organizations and create those connections is really the hallmark of this effort. And that if we don't find those organizations and resources and connect them in meaningful ways, then it's not a sustainable effort. And then it becomes an effort where we get some services or goods and we put them in the hands of somebody and everybody walks away and pats themselves on the back. What we seek to do is to create a sustainable method of processes that can enable this to continue to happen. So in the spirit of that sustainable kind of idea, we want to form a working group around connectivity and devices in ConnectHome. And so we're soliciting for volunteers from this group to be a part of that working group, to be a part of those connections, and to make sure that we can get people and resources in the community connected to each other. When anyone as part of this group sees a problem and knows of a specific capability someone has to be able to bring those resources together, because we all know that a giant federal pot of money isn't just going to hit me on the head and solve the problem, and we need to work together throughout the community to make that happen. So I guess if Allison, you have any comments about working group?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just exactly what Ben said. You know, I think the ConnectHome effort that HCD is working on, we recognize that we can't do it by ourselves, and that would sort of be defeating the purpose. So, you know, I think we're hoping to form a group that can meet on a somewhat regular basis. I don't think we're asking for weekly meetings or anything. I'm mostly thinking quarterly, a group of stakeholders that can help kind of drive the work, make sure that we're kind of meeting our year-over-year goals, you know, make those connections, as Jill was saying, make those connections that we don't know about, and be able to think kind of big picture about what we're doing for our HUD-assisted residents. And so again, you know, we've sort of broken it up into these two different but related issues, right? A digital skills training working group and kind of the devices and connections, understanding that those are super related, and but to kind of deal with them both in one meeting can get a little hairy. So definitely, so A, open to feedback, but B, you know, that's kind of our proposal moving forward, a kind of quarterly working group meeting with partners to make sure that we're on track with this action plan, and that we're thinking long-term and big picture. So with that, I think I see that Mike has a question, but I also wanted to say, I was gonna suggest maybe people raising their hand to volunteer for a work group, but you can also email Ben, whose email address you have, or put your chat, you know, say I'm in in the chat or anything like that. If we don't hear from you, we might specifically reach out and, for some folks that we know we want to be involved and try to get you to commit if you don't do it right now.
Yes, Ben, I wanted to just add and pick up on what Jill said in her observation about group 2. You know, the plan is the plan, but I would hope that somehow, Allison, you would find ways of adding words to it that HUD didn't pass on to you, because when we talk about the digital skill development, we have no idea whether that has some funding in it, whether there is some emphasis, what the emphasis is, but the connectivity is truly important. But my experience from years and years of IT, you can get equipment out there, but unless you create the need, meaning that the community understands why you're handing out equipment, you're going to hand out the equipment to the loudest or to the most connected, because obviously you're also going to see them by connectivity. You're not going to walk around Tucson House and ask the question. The other is the involvement of youth it is missing, absolutely missing. They're not even mentioned, okay? Who are the people that we go to when we need help on our devices? We go to the kids, okay? Let's get them involved. Let's bring them in. Let somebody like Jill's group be involved with the youth that they have been serving for so many years. Let's pull them back and make it into a community building process rather than a real estate opportunity. You know, it is about affordable housing, and that's what HUD would like to create. But affordable housing comes as a result of community building first, because they're the ones who know what they need. So groups is an interesting idea, but maybe we also need to come up with another idea of how to fit the pieces of hardware with the pieces of knowledge. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate your comments. That's all totally valid, and thank you. Does anybody else have any final words?
Yeah, Ben. So there's a couple of us who have started meeting to talk about a countywide strategic digital access plan. And we've started talking with the county, the library, and a number of other folks. And we're still in the early stages of trying to figure out exactly how we're going to proceed with that. We've been talking about hiring a consultant that's experienced in broadband planning. I will say that, and I heard folks talk about, Allison, you were talking about quarterly meetings about connectivity. And I don't know, again, what the city's plans are about applying for all the federal money that's coming down. But now is the time to be looking at if we're going to go after any federal grants. We can't wait a year. Money's there, and we want to make sure we get a piece of that puzzle. So if we need money for this project, we need to be looking at that now. And again, I don't know what the city IT department, if they're planning to apply for any of that federal money, what the plans are, but I think that's important to know at this point in time.
Well, I'm just going to add real quick then that there's a lot of money in the legislation for literacy and skilling as well, and that needs to be equal in the conversation, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, Cindy, you're right on. Thanks for reminding us about that. So yeah, there's lots of money that's going to be coming available. We expect an announcement fairly soon from the state about funding that's going to be available to us to support communities and community planning. So we expect that will happen fairly shortly. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And Ben, maybe you and I can have a conversation after this call. Sorry.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. So I've got Steve and Cindy down for the working group, definitely. And we can definitely talk in the future. In the interest of respecting everybody's time, I think we're just a little bit over. I want to say thanks to everybody. I really appreciate everyone being here. I really think that we can make some positive movement and continue to bring people together in the community so that we can help to serve some of our populations that really need it the most. So thanks again to everybody. If anybody has any further things that they would like to add that they didn't get to during the meeting, please feel free to email me, and I will try to include all that info as we package this up, and we'll get a draft of the action plan updated, and at the end of this process, make sure it gets out to everybody. Thanks again. Allison, do you have anything else?
Nope, that was great. Thanks, Ben.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
So Ben, when do you have some time to chat?
Please send me an email and I will get back to you. I could probably chat with you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Steve.
Yep. Bye now.
Bye.